Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate. This is the United show on Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. I'm your host, Reece. Joining me tonight is Connor. You've got Struan, you've got Mark, and you've got Z. Welcome to the show, boys. How are you this evening?
Great, thank you very much, mate.
Not bad. Recovering after the weekend, I think it's probably the right way of putting it, isn't it?
It's always great when United don't win, isn't it? It just sets up the week perfectly.
Just waiting for tomorrow.
There's always a madness. Sadly, it seems to be at the moment, so we can only do it one way or the highway, and that seems to be the United way. So we'll just go for it. So first time viewer, obviously, for those who aren't aware, there's two new guests on the show, Struan Garvey and Z. Struan's familiar if you're not in terms of like the Hibernian women's scene, and obviously Z himself, he's very active as well. So welcome to the channel, boys, and I hope you enjoy being on the Weekly Armchair, and hopefully have you on in further shows to come as well. Connor, Mark themselves are now and again regulars on the channel, but they're also on All for United. So it's great to have a balance this evening of just United fans and discussing. Obviously, they've got their own content, they've got their own ways of talking about the club. For those that are watching, especially the likes of Rach, welcome, good evening to you, pal. Hope you're well. And Keen, no doubt he'll be hitting up the comments this evening. So if you see any bizarre comments in the live chat under Weekly Armchair Sports Talk, it's Keen, it's not me. No doubt Keane will do anything he can to say the words Phil Jones in the six. I disagree. That's all I'm saying. But we are going to push on. So for those that are watching, please hit that like button, hit share, subscribe, give us a follow on Sports Armchair on Twitter as well. Give these guys a follow. I'm sure they'll be able to shout out their social media handles at the end of the show when we come round to it. So we may as well kick on with the dreaded pain that is Leicester City 4, Manchester United 2 at the King Power Stadium. We may as well just get stuck in. So, Connor, I'm going to come to you. The way United played throughout the whole game, I think the best way I can sum up was, I put the analogy on a show I was on the other day. My analogy was, it's like playing on a chessboard without your knight, your bishops, your queen, and your king. It's like just going in with the mediocre, shitty chess pieces. We went in, we had nothing, and we only played well for out of 90 minutes, we only played well for 5. Leicester played well for 90. So how would you sum up the performance on Saturday?
Yeah, I've got a good friend who's a Leicester fan, and she said, and I kind of agree, that Leicester weren't exactly incredible. We made it very easy for them. So I think as well, we've been saying this for a long time, we're a brilliant squad or team of individuals. We've got some unbelievable players, but there's no way, or there isn't a way at the moment of fitting them in the way that you want. And I say this a lot. You can win games on the fly with individuals. If you want to win consistently, you need a balanced team, and we don't have that. So Ole needs to find a way. I said on a show about 2 weeks ago when we started this bad run of form after Everton, that Ole needs to start being ruthless and selfish and pick the team that he wants to pick, not the team that he thinks the fans want to see. Because if he trusts, let's say, for example, the dreaded McTominay and Fred, if he trusts those two to win a game, he needs to pick those two and hopefully win the game. Because he's trying to shoehorn Pogba in on the left or in a midfield two in Matic, which I don't think works, because I don't think Pogba actually fits any balanced team that we try and put out. He's trying to, obviously Ronaldo, there's questions there. I'm never going to question Ronaldo, because who are we to tell Ronaldo how to play football? It's Ronaldo.
Exactly.
But then you've got the likes of Cavani. We pressed really well last season with Cavani up there, and he's now out of the team. And it's just Ole needs to, like I said, he needs to find a way, just be selfish, pick the team that he thinks is most balanced across the whole pitch, not just defence or midfield or whatever, and go from there. Because at the moment, there was parts of that Leicester game where I thought we look all right here. Sancho looked all right, doesn't really fit in yet. He's playing on the wrong side for a start. He's playing out on the left. I know he can play there, but he's predominantly on the right. He just needs to find a way of making this team balanced, because we don't look awful. We're not getting I don't think personally we're getting absolutely blown away by teams. Everton actually was a really good performance for about 60 minutes, which is probably unlucky. We just didn't kill them off.
I agree.
So, I just think he just needs to start finding a balanced team more than anything. Just start being selfish, and hopefully he does that moving forward, because obviously at the moment he's losing what you'd class as the kind of hardcore fans behind him, isn't he? So just needs to start being a bit more selfish, I think.
And that's where it comes down to at the end, is once you lose the hardcore fans, like the match-going fans, in my opinion, every fan's hardcore, but the match-going fans are the ones you really cannot afford to lose, because they're the ones that are chanting you on inside the stadium or the away grounds when it's at its peak. You need them behind you. If you lose them, doesn't matter who you are quote-unquote fucked. Like, you are, there's no coming back. But I completely agree with you in your sum up on that. Struan, obviously, as I said again, welcome to the show. What's your overall thoughts on the Man United performance against Leicester? And touching back on Connor's point, where the manager needs to be brave. He needs to make these decisions. What decisions do you think he has to make for him to actually prolong the quote unquote now the inevitable, which could be he could potentially lose his job? What can he do to prevent possibly not lose his job and actually turn things around?
To put it simply, he needs to start winning games. But I mean, I think Connor made a good point there. A lot of the match-going fans, are starting to turn on Ole. Andy Mitten made the point as well, saying that he's losing the moderates, and I think that's true. A lot of people who have stood by Ole the entire time. There's people on social media who, the minute he got the job, permanently wanted him out and have always cried for him to lose his job. But there's been people who've stood by him the entire time, and now we're getting to the point where a lot of people are starting to change their opinions. It's not nice to see, because from Ole's point of view, if he's hearing the fans, turning on him as well, it's going to be problems for him, obviously. But going to the game on Leicester, it just wasn't great at all. I mean, how do you fit Pogba into this team? It is an issue. We've been crying out for that right winger for years. We finally signed one after a 2-year long saga with Jadon Sancho, and now playing him out on the left wing as well. It's a difficult one, and I do feel bad for Ole in the sense that it's difficult to fit all this talent in up front, because last season we saw how good Edinson Cavani was, but now we've signed Ronaldo. You can't bench Ronaldo, and when he did against Everton, obviously got a lot of backlash from that and so on and so forth. Cavani, I think, is a much better presser. But another thing with the whole Ronaldo pressing debate is we knew before he came to United that his pressing numbers aren't the highest. He's not going to press in the way that other players do, and we've not really accommodated for that. We've just sort of tried to play the same way, and it's not playing out at all, really. It's a really tough one, and obviously the defence as well has been issues with Harry Maguire only training for the first time on Friday and then coming into the team, and he was one of his worst games in the United shirt against Leicester. To be honest, I thought he was pretty poor overall. But I think the worst thing about it was David De Gea was probably our best player, and we conceded 4 goals.
Yeah, I honestly agree with you. I look at the way we played, and it is trying to accommodate stars rather than a team. And obviously, you want to have those star players in your squad. You want to showcase the best talent in football, but you can have the best talent in football, but not be a team, and then you're not going to actually get what you deserve and what the fans deserve. And that's success on all grounds. You're not going to do it if you cannot find a way to accommodate. We've seen other managers have this talent before and quote unquote lost their jobs for it. Lampard is an example of that. Like, he had to fit stars in, and obviously it's a totally different parallel to what Solskjaer's done, but there is some similarities there where it's big egos, it's big transfers, and it's players or egos that he's going to have to manage. And the way it's going at the moment, it's not as easy to do, and that's purely because of how star-studded it is. He's going to have to try and find a way to accommodate it, and if he can't figure it out, it's going to make it worse for him. Comment from Trevor: this lineup reminds me of the film The Usual Suspects. Where is Kaiser's sauce? Well, for one, I happen to like that movie, you cheeky bugger. And second of all, we don't need Kaiser. We've got Mark instead. And speaking of Mark, hello fella, hope you're doing good. What is your sum up of the Leicester game?
Yeah, I think most of the points have been covered. Thanks for the introduction, by the way, and it's great to be back on, first of all. I think most of the points have been summed up, really. It was just a poor day. Nobody particularly turned up. And I've got to be honest with you, actually, Connor, I remember your point a few weeks ago about Pogba not really being the player that we can really put into this team and for it to work. And at that point, I disagreed. But I am starting to see the light a little bit more. I think Pogba, it is very difficult to put him in the middle of the park. I thought in particular He was very, very slow and sluggish yesterday. I thought Matic actually played very, very good forward movement and forward passes, but actually on the defensive side of things, he was very poor, and that's what we put him in for. Now, listen, this isn't a slight on Pogba at all. I absolutely love the man. I think he's got incredible ability, and you and I discuss about Pogba a lot. You know, he's a wonderful, wonderful player. However, he didn't turn up, and that wasn't the biggest problem. Nobody turned up, and as you said, Struan, earlier, David De Gea being one of our best players and still letting in 4 goals, that's a big problem. I think this is the first time really when I've had to sort of take a step back and maybe put some of the blame onto Ollie. I don't like doing that, but obviously starting Harry Maguire was a massive mistake, and I think we had on various shows on all sorts of channels before the game, we were all saying start Bailly and Lindelof, and Bailly must be kicking himself on the side there, because I think that showed. That was a big problem for me. Ronaldo's a difficult one for me. He is a legend. He's a club legend. He's a wonderful man. He's an absolute superhuman, and it's wonderful to have him back. But I am not sure that the team is able to accommodate him either. In that he doesn't press from the front, which is what we need. Something that Cavani does incredibly well. He's not that interchangeable when you play Rashford and Sancho. I thought Sancho actually looks very dangerous, and actually has been one of our better players all season. I know he's not been getting the goals. I know he's not been getting the assists, but on the front foot, he looks dangerous, and I want to see more of him, and I think it's going to maybe take a goal or an assist or 2 before we really see what he can start providing. But listen, it was a really bad day, and this is a massive couple of weeks now. We said this before the Leicester game. This was the big game that really he needed to pick 3 points up in, and he didn't. It's either going to get very good very quickly, or it's going to really sort of get very bad very quickly. And he's got some tough games, and obviously tomorrow night, Atalanta, they're a very tough team, and he's absolutely got to get 3 points off just to shut everybody out for a little bit longer before he gets to the next Premier League game.
Yeah, definitely. And before I come on to use Z, I'm just going to read a comment because Trevor's doing what Trevor does best. Chat Trev. Playing Maguire when he had 1 day on grass was a travesty. No, it pretty much is an accurate point. It looked like he was after smoking grass. For fuck's sake. In a scenario where we could play a front 2, could you play Rashford off Ronaldo for his pressing ability and work rate? You know, as we've not spoken to Z yet, I'm going to get Z's opinion on Leicester, and I'll actually let Z kick off this one as well. So the floor is yours, Z. Based on the back on Keane's comment, what's your thoughts on that? And obviously your opinion on the Leicester result as well against United on Saturday.
I feel like starting with the Leicester result, I'll just echo with what Connor said, that Leicester didn't play great. We just played shit. And rather than playing shit, we probably made lots of rookie mistakes, I would say. Like if you play that game, if that game is replayed again, I don't think we'll be conceding 4 goals. I don't think we'll be conceding 2 goals over there. Those were just some rookie mistakes I don't think Maguire would be doing in the next 10-15 games. It was just one of those games, and I feel like when Maguire was playing, I don't know why did Ollie went with such an attacking team. You know that there's Maguire already, who just had one training session of probably a few minutes on the grass 1 day before the game. You could have probably benched Pogba and provided McTominay with the support with Matic, so that they have more defensive support going back. Because if you look up at numbers, and I didn't think Harry would be starting. I thought he would be starting Bailly and Lindelof, and when I was going through the numbers, I read somewhere that we played either 4 or 5 games with those 2 before, and all those 4 or 5 games we have won neither one of them. So the record of just playing those 2 was already, it's not great. Not a Brentford or not a Brentford or not a Newcastle. You have to respect Leicester as opponents also. So my whole thought process was it was a bad game, but I don't think this performance or these mistakes would be repeated, because these were just rookie mistakes. The first goal that they conceded, the third or fourth goal in which Maguire was just standing static, just rookie mistakes. And I think with coming up to the question that was asked, I feel like with Rashford coming back into side, we're gonna play much much better pressing football, because I think it would. Rashford is someone who runs a lot and has good chemistry with Shaw, and them linking up with runs, moving forward and moving backwards, is gonna work better for United as compared to Sancho. Uh, I feel like Sancho has been putting on good performances, but again, we are not doing relatively great up front. So, even against Leicester, us he was making up those runs, but when he was looking up that there was no one to pass to, or there was no one in a good position to, so he would just come back and give it back to either Pogba or Matic, who was playing. But yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully these rookie mistakes are not repeated.
Agreed. And just on the grounds of that, do you think that would realistically work though? Like a Rashford playing off Ronaldo, even if it's like you've got the system there. Like he seems to favour the 4-2-3-1. He's not realistically going to change it. But do you think maybe he should look at a way where he can get Rashford closer to the striker rather than playing similar to what, like for example, what Antonio Conte did with Chelsea when Hazard. We all knew Hazard wasn't going to do the defensive work when they won the league, so he kept Hazard as far forward as possible, close to Diego Costa. Do you think that could realistically work? And if we know Rashford will at least do the defensive duties, he works really hard. But if Ronaldo, we all know he's going to press differently. Do you think it would be better keep him at least one winger closer to Ronaldo, and that could be Rashford because he's blistering pace?
I feel like we are already doing that with Greenwood. Isn't Greenwood already in a much more attacking position than he should be? Because with Rashford, I feel like his best strengths are getting in behind the defender, like the one he just scored the goal against Leicester. And if you just take that away from him, that takes away a big lethal threat that we have had past season. And I don't want to experiment with Rashford because that's one thing that has helped us get goals in the last season and even like the past weekend. But that could probably be practiced more with Greenwood or Sancho because they're still young players. They can still develop that way.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate your honesty and I appreciate your alternative in that sense in terms of going with the Greenwood watch, I think is another wise option. Connor, you did ask to respond to this one next, so I'm going to give that to you. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a couple of points within this kind of question and topic. Firstly, we don't really have wingers anyway. Sancho is probably the only real winger that we have, proper winger. Rashford plays out wide, but he's more of an inside forward. Greenwood's more of an inside forward. Martial's more of an inside forward. We don't have wingers. So, in essence, Rashford will be doing that anyway because he doesn't hug the touchline, so to speak. He's very... And even if he is out wide, he comes inside anyway. It's very rare Rashford go on the outside, put a cross in. Whereas when Sancho's on the right, that's what we probably will see more of. But also, this is... Before I say this, right, I've been a firm backer of Ole, and not just Ole, Jose, Van Gaal, and Moyes, because I just don't believe in sacking managers. I don't believe in this. Chelsea have royally fucked the model, really, in sacking managers and winning trophies. They've kind of ruined it for everyone else. Watford's an example of where it doesn't work. So I just wanted to say that first. But this is where Ole needs to show that, because I've got small doubts that maybe Ole is better with a team that is not got the world-class players in it. I think Ole is very good at developing players, but he's not very good at dealing with players at the very top, if that makes sense. Because look at what he did when he had Pereira, Lingard, Dan James, and then obviously Martial, Rashford were obviously in that side as well. He actually did better, and I think we played better on occasions than what we're playing this season, where we've got better players. But this is where he needs to say to Ronaldo, and because ultimately, Ole's the manager, he needs to say to Ronaldo, look, you're either going to help press, or Ole needs to change his system and don't play that, or change it in some way and play to Ronaldo's strengths. Because I think if, let's say the worst happened, in my opinion, and another manager comes in, their first thought is, right, how do we get the best out of Ronaldo? It won't be, right, let's try and fit a team and shoehorn players in here and there and try and build like kind of elsewhere. So that's where I think he needs to prioritise. How can we get the best out of Ronaldo? There's no point Ronaldo, and I love the guy, right? But I'm getting really peed off watching Ronaldo drop so deep, almost like, almost in midfield at times, just to get the ball. I get why he's doing it. He wants to be on the ball all the time, whatever. He's that kind of player. but he's so ineffective back there. What's he going to do back there? Because even if you do get the ball out wide, who are you crossing it to? There's nobody in the middle then, because he's dropped so deep. And that's why you see, I don't like this. I'm going to sound so negative on this channel. Bruno's almost up as a second striker. You've got 2 inside forwards. So there's no width. And that's why I think Wan-Bissaka gets a bit exposed, because he's left out on his own. And to get a crossing, he's got to beat 2 players before he can even get a crossing. So, yeah, it's... I'll stop ranting.
All opinions are welcome. Positive or negative, all opinions are welcome. All opinions are welcome on here. There's no censorship on here.
So that was just a couple of points. Like I said, there's just a few points in it that we don't play with actual wingers anyway, which is why we rely on Shaw and Wan-Bissaka for the width. And yeah, Ollie just needs to try and get the best out of Ronaldo, because he's not going to press. We know he was never brought in to do that. So you need to build the team around him and try and work out how you're going to get the best out of him.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a conundrum. What does he do with him? And first of all, Keane, I don't normally tell people to F off, but seriously, get rid of that comment. Needs to go. I'm sick of this crap. He's been gone for ages. He's going to get relegated to Leeds, and I'm still getting
you were
this.
best mates with Dan James.
No, never liked him. Never liked him. He's too soft, like too soft a person. Trevor, I'm going to give this one to Struan. Put you on the spot. Struan, your opinion on Neville's comments as of late, in regards to Sky Sports. What's your overall thoughts on it? Like, do you think he is a hypocrite, or do you think he's literally just doing what he believes in, which is he isn't going to call for people to be sacked? He is going to call them out where it matters, but he's not going to be I'm just going to ask for sackings now. What's your overall thoughts on Gary Neville's comments in contrast to Jamie Carragher's?
I think in fairness to Neville, he tends to stick by managers. I seem to recall last season he was still defending Frank Lampard before he was even sacked by Chelsea. And I think it's the same with Wenger back with Arsenal. I think Neville tends to stay with managers. And I can understand that because, it can be easy to just say, sack the manager. There's problems at the club, sack the manager, everything gets better. And as Connor said, Chelsea have kind of just made that the model, isn't it? If you sack your manager and go and get another one, go and win a trophy, it tends to be the thing now, how clubs can follow that. But I think Neville's right and wrong at the same time. Sometimes I think the manager does deserve a little bit of criticism. And I think he did give all the criticism yesterday, to be fair. I think he did criticise what he was doing. And he said a few times, it's on the manager to get this out of players. But at the same time, I don't think what Neville said was wrong as such. Jamie Carragher was slagging into Solskjaer himself a bit more. And I think quite a few United fans on Twitter were agreeing more with Carragher than Neville, which is definitely a rarity. But I don't think Gary Neville was exactly wrong in what he was saying. I think he made some good points, but at the same time, he is mates with Solskjaer. He even said that last night, like he was pals with him. And I know Rio Ferdinand's had the same criticism because, they've defended Solskjaer. I think Peter Schmeichel also came up quite recently and said that he thinks Solly's doing a good job, and obviously they were teammates as well. So there's a lot of ex-United players are defending Solskjaer, and I think they've all, it's all true because they're not just defending him for the sake of defending him because they're the pals. They're saying logical points towards the proof. Like the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, with United, that there are reasons as to why you should keep Solskjaer and why possibly other people are in line for criticism. So I don't think he was a hypocrite as such, but at the same time, I don't think all of his comments are always 100% accurate.
Yeah, that's very fair. Before I come on to, I'll ask for Z's opinion on Gary Neville in a second. I'm just going to read out a comment by Shane. Good evening, mate. Hope you're well. Neville isn't a hypocrite. He just has no credibility as a pundit. I wouldn't call for a mate to be sacked either, though. To be fair, I work with a few. I work like my colleagues at work now, like very close friends. I would never call for anyone's head. I think you would have. I think if someone got asked a question on performance and if they're absolutely not doing anything, I would suggest better ways to help rather than just say, just get them sacked. I don't think that's the best approach. But in some circumstances, someone is going to lose their job, and it's unfortunate. Trevor's comment, Neville called for Mourinho and Van Gaal to go, and not so many words on Twitter, but Neville forgets that. He also likes to reiterate the words best in class. So, yeah. And good evening to you, Maisie, as well, Devils United. Z, on the back of the comments, in contrast, Carragher versus Neville in terms of Solskjaer's job, what the players can do, Man United need to get somebody who's now classed as what they say the elite, has to be somebody on that barrier. What's your overall thoughts on that?
I mean, I stand with what Neville is saying because I don't think now is the time to react with Solskjaer. Uh, yeah, the results are not there. Performances have been really, really, really poor. But the points that Gary talks about, progress has been made. We are not where we were when Ollie got this team. People forget that quickly, and I feel like. And Gary's main point is about the top four that he's been finishing. Ollie has been delivering top four, and that's what's important. Uh, and I don't see a reason for his head to be called right now. And I've seen Gary getting a lot of abuse. I've seen a lot of reaction on social media about how Ollie should be out of the door right now, here and then.
Yeah.
But doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. I still feel like he should be given chance till Christmas. We do have a couple of difficult games coming up, but after that we have a stretch of 6 or 7 games, easy games. If a new manager comes in, he pockets those 6, 7 easy games, everyone would be happy about it and be like, United are back, or that was the right decision to sack Oli. But story could then again be different in March. So I don't think now is the time to talk about sacking Oli, because if you think about it, he has had his team. Yeah, this is his first team, but he got this team in August.
Yeah.
Rashford returned 2 days ago. Rashford is a main left winger. Martial is not a number one left winger. Sancho is not the number one left winger. Ronaldo is not that. Rashford's that one. We've had injuries for Maguire. We've had injuries for Varane. Maguire never got injured for a year and a half before these recent
That's right.
injuries.
That's
So
right, yeah.
timing's been there. Yeah, McTominay and Fred and that midfield issue is an issue that is visible to us, to all the fans, and I'm pretty sure and pretty certain that it's also visible to Oli. But to judge him 2 months after he has had his first team, I feel is too hard. And I stand like I stand with Gary if he doesn't want to call for the head of Oli for Oli's head, because I don't think Carragher would have been doing that if Klopp was in such a similar situation where Liverpool was struggling.
In an honest opinion, right? Because I've never really chosen a side. I don't see the point in Ollie in, Ollie out. I've always been consistent with that. Mark and Connor can vouch on that because they know me well. They can vouch on that side. On the grounds of just at the moment poor performances, situations that are becoming quote unquote difficult to fix. Just like an unbiased perspective, obviously we're all Man United fans. We're gonna have a biased point of view, but just take like the bias out for it for a second. How long do you think roughly you should give him for? Do you think until Christmas makes more sense, or do you think like when it depends on the Champions League and where we are in that stage, or do you think we should just give him the full season and then judge it at the end? What's your overall perspective on that, Z? And then I'll come to you, Mark, with the same question.
I feel like Christmas sounds the ideal deal. I don't know where we're gonna end up in Champions League. Hopefully, we'll knock it out. We'll qualify for the next round. But I feel December sounds fair, because then you can even look up if they have plans to fund him and to support him in January. Probably get one midfielder over the line, or a signing that could help. Because I read it somewhere, I don't remember it at the top of my head, that we have 70 million available in January, which sounds like a good sum. Not sure how reliable that is, but I feel like if things don't work out till December, if we are still outside of top four and if we are out of Champions League, then yeah, he should get the sack. But he should be given chance till January, because what's gonna piss me off more is like some other manager coming in and that's just point strapping up those easy wins in December, because there are easy games coming up.
Yes, certainly. And I'm just going to read a few comments before I come to you, Mark. So it's just going to be the same question. So a few comments here. Another one from Shane was, Neville never called for Jose to be sacked. He actually called Pogba a disgrace and blamed him for it. And he blamed it on the back of the bus stop. We all remember the bus stop on the training ground, which was quote unquote ridiculous. And then obviously it led to the social media tweets, which there's always a recurring nightmare, and you never want to put the blame on people, but there's always going to be situations like that. A couple of comments from Maisie, like obviously saying Connor's doing great on the ground, so is Mark. Look, all you guys are doing great. Trevor, for you, Z, he says he loves you and his wall of great people in his life, but the question is, well, the biggest question is, where's his photo? Well, we already know where the photo of
I mean,
Trevor is. It's,
he'll have to
nowhere
send
near.
me his photo for that.
We already know where that photo's going, mate. In the bin section. Only kidding, Trevor. Only kidding. Maisie's comment. Good evening to you as well, Maisie. I've already said it before, but I'll say it again. Tomorrow's game will be a pressure. I think the most pressure will be against Liverpool. That could potentially be make or break. Well, we do have the memory of 3 years ago where we literally got humiliated by Liverpool, and that was the final nail in the coffin for Mourinho. There is sadly that possibility that Lightning. You don't normally want to see lightning strikes twice, but this weekend lightning could strike twice, and it could be Liverpool once again as the detriment for another manager losing his job. And Shane just coming out openly and honestly, Ole, in his opinion, should be sacked now before a title race is completely dead. The title race isn't over. He does have a point. There is only a couple of points between us and Chelsea at the top, and you've got Liverpool only a point ahead. He does have a valid point in that grounds. Mark, on the back of Shane's comment and on the back of what I've asked just as Z about how long the manager should have, what they should do next, like next steps. What do you think the club should do? Should they persist?
Yeah, sorry, Shane. I know I've had this conversation with you before, but I don't agree with you. Listen, you can't really put a time frame on these sorts of things, okay?
Yes.
And I think that the worst thing that you can possibly do at the moment is get rid of Ollie. Now, I know people won't agree with that because they're disappointed with his tactics, his play style, whatever. But you've also got to remember that he's just brought in four including Heaton into the fray, and that does take a bit of time. You've also got to remember that actually we were in a worse off position this time last year after 8 games. We were a point behind, a couple of positions below, okay? So it's not all doom and gloom. Now, when I said to you about not putting a time frame, I think the end of the season is what it'll get. Okay, if results don't improve, you're probably looking at Christmas. If you lose and get knocked out of the Champions League, you'll probably get out. You'll probably be sacked at that point. Unfortunately, these days, big games like against Liverpool do have a massive effect. And as long as he doesn't get humiliated, I don't think that means anything. For him, I think that he does need to know his best 11. That's my only criticism towards Ollie. I know that he does make substitutions late and a few other bits and pieces, but you can expect that from a non-experienced manager. It's all about picking up the pieces and gaining that experience as time goes on, okay? But for me, he needs to find his best 11. I don't think Ollie, and we've probably had this conversation before, probably had it elsewhere, can pick his best 11, and that's a big problem for me. But yeah, you can't put a time frame on these things, and I think you've just got to see as it comes. Last season, in a worse position, had a brilliant run over January, everyone was flying and we absolutely killed it. That could still happen again. And you know what? We're only 2 or 3 games away from having that. If we win 2 or 3 games, beat City, Spurs and Liverpool, everybody will be singing from a different hymn sheet. Yes, you've just got to give it time. This is way too early in the season. We've still got a little bit of cohesion to go with the team. And no, I'm not going to call for him. I don't disagree with what Gary Neville said, actually. Why would you call a mate out? When you're in the limelight on Sky Sports that everybody watches on a Monday Night Football, why would you call your mate out? You're not going to do that. And he hasn't called out any previous managers. He might have said where he's going wrong, and I think he's fairly criticised Ollie. He's probably had a phone call with him and told him himself too. And Ollie does have to he's got his back against the wall, okay? And going on track record, whenever he's been in that position last season before, he's got himself out of it. So you can only go and believe that he's going to do the same this time.
Yeah. I'll be in all honesty before I'll come to Trevor's comment in a minute, which is, in my opinion, dead on. I look at the Man United job and there's some managers I think could come in and work with it because there's such a pressure of you've got to appease the fans with like other jobs, like you've got to appease the fans with exciting football, you've got to succeed, like you've got to win trophies. You've got to adhere to the academy team. You've got to continue the long tradition since November 1937 where you're promoting young players. You've got to keep that tradition going. And you've got to adhere to what this club stands for. But the management position itself, like there's so much more to that as well. You've got the PR, you've got all that. And it can take its toll. And it can identify over a period of time for questions, it can adhere to the point of how long can it be before the job gets to the point where he is out of his depth. And I think it's horrible to say things like about that, but these are the questions that lead to conversations where you still have to have them, whether you're an Ollie in or you're an Ollie out, or you're like myself where you don't choose by a side, you back your club and then you just wish things to get turned around, you want the better. But it does look like the job is becoming too much for him, and I think he's let down as well by what's above him and what's around him. Like, as much as I think Mike Phelan, he is for what he's done to this club, he deserves the utmost respect as well. But I think what he's got around him isn't enough to actually get Ollie, in terms of a manager or a coach, to the next level. I don't think it's doing the same for his coaching staff around him. I think he needs something better around him that can do the job if the club is to persist with him. But if we sack him now, it just all depends on what the club do next, because there's no guarantee that the club could get the next decision right. They could make it worse. They could appoint Gareth Southgate, for example. That's worse. Like, that is the end of it. Like, if that happened, it would be absolutely disgusting. Okay, and I'm just going to read a comment, and then Connor's got a point he wants to make, which is completely fine with me. Trevor, Ollie has a contract until 2024, and 3 months ago was back to 100%. If Ollie is sacked now, the club would look foolish, so probably end of the season. Yep, that's fair. Trevor again, I heard Ollie was on Candy Crush last night, and if it was him who picked the starting line for Wednesday, Phil Jones was first name in the team sheet. For goodness sake, you really do come up with such bizarre shite. And Shane again, I remember all these arguments being made for Lampard last season when he was sacked. How did that work out for Chelsea?
Yeah, well, we discussed that earlier, didn't we? That's the model that Chelsea have brought in, which doesn't work for everybody. United made it very clear a few seasons ago they didn't want to become a sacking club that was going to do that. They wanted to have longevity, and a lot of other teams do that. How's that working out for Watford? Yeah. It's only fortunate that Chelsea have got billions that they can pump into the club to ensure that they buy success.
Also, as well, Chelsea are in a worse position than we are when they sacked Lampard. And also, the quick point I just wanted to make, when everyone's comparing this Liverpool game to the Jose game, it's completely different. We were in a worse situation under Jose than we are now. And also, Jose had lost the board, if you remember the summer where he went on that rant very famously in the summer, basically called Mason Greenwood and Angel Gomez and all these kind of players useless when he had to use his youth squad in the pre-season tour. He'd lost the backing of the board because he just basically publicly called them out because he didn't get the players he wanted. He'd lost most of the fans, because I remember going to games that season and the season before, and it's completely different. He'd lost the fans, and contrary to what people might say, the club definitely listen to the fans in some aspects. They know what is said in the grounds. You know, they listen to the fans' feedback and all these kind of things in whatever way they do it. They'll be well aware of people's support and not so support of Ollie. So that's what I just wanted to quickly say. That Liverpool game is completely different because we were worse under Jose, football-wise and positions or points, whatever. He'd lost the board and he'd lost the backing of the fans. I think it's just completely different, that's all.
I think in some aspects, I think you're right, and in some other ways, I think there is some similarities. Like, maybe not like the loss of the dressing room, for example, or the loss of the board, but the way, for example, results have been for the first 10 games overall. Like, so you've got the Champions League games, the Cup game. We've got and obviously where we are in the league. Yes, we're in sixth position at the moment, but there is the same position that Mourinho did get sacked in the same position we finished at the end of the season. So I'm not putting a direct comparison there. I'm just saying there's a similarity in sense of if things cannot be improved, Liverpool could be his nail in the coffin. So there's that similarity, but it's not the exact same as Mourinho, but there is a few edge similarities there.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've all said, isn't it? That just wait until at least Christmas. Wait and see what happens with the Champions League. Wait and see where we are in the league by then. There's no point doing it now because, what a manager's going to come in, tomorrow? Let's say we lose to Atalanta tomorrow. What manager comes in Thursday, has to prepare for Liverpool, Spurs, City, and so on. That just wouldn't make any sense. So at least wait till December.
Just want to make it clear. Sorry, Keane.
On you go, Phil.
Reece, I'll let you move on in a minute, bro. But
on you go.
I'm not Ollie in or Ollie out, and I do have my frustrations with Ollie. But let me just make it a little bit clearer for everybody. I think when Mourinho left and got sacked by Manchester United, I probably felt the most elated about my club in a very long time. Now, with Ollie, got that same treatment and got sacked now, I think I'd probably shed a few tears on that day.
In all honesty, because of what it represents. I think for so many people, it's either you give them a fair chance or you think they've actually done enough and you just get rid. And then there's some who could potentially have unfinished business. Don't get me wrong. I know at the time, I know we're going to touch up on Atlanta in a minute, and we're going to come to them in just a second. But I know people might disagree with this, but I didn't want Louis van Gaal to get sacked. Well, I didn't want any manager to get sacked, but him in particular, I felt the way he got dismissed, I think was the most cruel of them all, because he won the first trophy since Sir Alex Ferguson, and he won the FA Cup, the first FA Cup won since the 2004 win against Millwall when we won 3-0 at the Millennium Stadium. That was Van Gaal's first trophy, and he was building for something. Yeah, the football was quote unquote dire, but he was building something. Then he got given his P45 literally straight after, and we all kind of saw it coming because obviously Mourinho got sacked by Chelsea the exact same season. He got sacked after the Leicester game when they got absolutely humiliated. Next thing you know, all because he's available, Guardiola's going to be available for City, all that nonsense. Oh, Mourinho's going to be available. Oh, the chat begins as early as Christmas of that same year, and now it moves to the point where, okay, he's now won the FA Cup, bang, he's gone. So I think for any circumstances, the same. I think for anyone to lose their job, it's horrible, especially in a business like football, which is a results business. And before we come into Atlanta, a comment from Trevor for you, Mark. You're the great speaker, he must says. It's the books, it's definitely the books. Ooh, he's calling you very illiterate, sir. He's calling you very illiterate. We are going to move on because obviously there is a pressing matter. It's tomorrow night. It's the Champions League game. It's the beginning of our back-to-back against Atlanta. First game's at home before we obviously go over to the Gewiss Stadium. We're not playing we are not playing in the US. That's too big a travel. We don't have that luxury at the moment. We're playing in Italy in a couple of weeks' time. But first of all, we are playing at Old Trafford tomorrow night. We are up against Atlanta. Stu, I'm going to come to you. Have you watched it? I watch Serie A regularly, so I'm very impressed with Gasperini. But from anything you've watched from Atlanta compared to how we play, are you impressed with Atlanta? And do you think tomorrow is going to be a tough game for us?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Atlanta, to be honest. When our group actually got drawn, although Villarreal were the top seeds, it was the game against Atalanta that I think worried me the most, just because it's something totally different that we've never come up against. And I know last season they were put out in the Champions League by, I think Real Madrid put them out in the end. But if you go to the season before that, I thought Atalanta were absolutely brilliant, to be honest. And they're just such a fun team to watch. It's fantastic. I think what Gasperini has done is fantastic, to be honest. When you look at the quality of players that he's brought through, not massive names or anything like that, and he's turned them into stars. I mean, I look at somebody like Christian Romero, who prior to coming to Atlanta, obviously he was at Juventus. He was a bit of a nobody really knew who he was type character, but then at Atlanta he was absolutely fantastic, and he's gone and made a big money move to Tottenham. He's been fantastic for Argentina as well. It's Atalanta.
There's I don't know geography, but even I know where we're playing. That's all I'm saying. And I wasn't good at geography in high school. I preferred history. Anyway, do continue.
Yeah, so I'm quite worried about Atalanta, but I'm also excited in a way to see how they play. I don't follow Serie A too closely. I've seen the results and I think they're 4 wins, 2 defeats, 2 draws so far. Big win at the weekend. But watching them in the Champions League, I always find them entertaining. It's a classic line that you see on Twitter sometimes, that whenever Atalanta are playing in the Champions League, watch them. We saw them against Liverpool last year as well, and it's always a good game, to be honest. They always put on a good show. Although they play with the 3 at the back, they're a very attacking team, and I'm just not sure what to expect and how we're going to line up. I don't know if we're going to try and match them. A lot of people are saying that we should go to a back 3. I don't know how we're going to approach the game. We're obviously the home team. We want to dominate the ball, but I don't know if we want to leave ourselves open on the counter-attack, or likewise, if we want to draw them in and we play on the counter, because some of our best football is done on the counter-attack. So it's a really tough one, to be honest. One day I'm thinking the game's going to go a dominant victory for United, and the next I'm terrified about what's going to happen.
Definitely. And Connor, I'll come on to you next. What's your overall opinions on the Atlanta game, and what do you see coming from it? Do you see United getting the 3 points? Do you see any potential weaknesses in Atlanta that United could exploit? When I've watched them, I think they're fantastic with the ball. They have got several of their Dutch contingent out. That was announced today. They do play a very good style of football. Gasperini has been fantastic with the defensive organisation, the tactical directiveness in their game. But I think the best way of liking them is like, not complete disrespect here, but similar to Leeds, where they do leave a lot of space. So, what's your thought process going into the game tomorrow night?
I mean, if we want to progress, we're going to have to beat them, because in our group, it doesn't look like anyone's going to be like a whipping boys of the group, where we had a few years ago where that Mourinho Champions League, when we just scraped through, obviously beat Juventus away. Young boys were the whipping boys of that group, so you knew you were probably going to get 6 points off them. Whereas this time around, it doesn't look like there's going to be a team where you're going to rack up 6 points against. So if we're going to beat, I always say in the Champions League, win your home, don't lose your away, and that should be enough to see you through. Now, we have to win. A draw is just, I personally worry if we draw that we probably won't go through, because I can't see us winning over there, and I can't see us. It's going to be tough over in Villarreal as well. So,
yeah.
Now, I haven't watched too much of them, but from what I do know, obviously they play a back three, back five, whichever way you want to look at it. They're very well defensively organised, and they've got pace on the counter. So 2 problems that are not great for us, because we struggle to break down a well-organised team, and we don't deal well with pace on the counter. So that just sets us up for brilliance, doesn't it, tomorrow? I am worried, I've got to be honest, because it's, like I just said, those 2 things are 2 things we struggle against. So if they're clever, I don't know too much about their manager, and I haven't watched them really at all this year. If they're clever, they'll come to us and play a low block. I hope they don't do that. I hope they come to us and come at us, because then that obviously will suit us more. So it's going to be tough. I think people are obviously going there expecting a reaction, and we will get one. I'm pretty sure we'll come out of the box firing in the first kind of 10 to 15 minutes. But we just need to be careful. I think if we go, and obviously I was at the Everton game, and I remember what the atmosphere was like there. It's starting to, as we've already touched on, with the kind of match-going fans. Now, I spoke to a few people that are at Leicester away. Now, there was a few fans that left early. There's certain like kind of questions being asked now. If we go a goal down early on against Atalanta, you can imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like. That kind of worry then, and obviously that then translates onto the players. So,
yeah.
I hope we just get an early goal and it be an easy night, but I can't see it being easy. Atalanta, like you said, already said, are a very well drilled side, so it's going to be tough. But we've got more than enough quality in the side to put them to the sword, so to speak, even off the bench, which is not something we've had in recent years. So yeah, it's just a must win, and if we're going to win, it's going to be 2 problems that we've struggled against all season. So that will be another positive should we get 3 points.
Absolutely. And Trevor, on the back of your comments, he's basically agreeing with your sentiment. 3 points tomorrow at all costs, as the away games will be harder in the final. I agree with that sentiment. I will give you an update before I'll come to you, Z, like for this one. Just in the back of it, these are the players that are out tomorrow for Atlanta. Rafael Toloi, Matteo Pessina, Robin Gosens is out tomorrow. That's a massive boost for United. Hans Hatvor, so that's their right-sided player, or even the right wing back, depending on their system. And Berat Jimsiti is also out tomorrow. So on the back of that, how are you feeling going into the game tomorrow, and where do you see could be potential weaknesses that United could exploit to what necessarily have to get tomorrow is 3 points. 1 point isn't enough.
I can't speak about the weaknesses because I haven't seen Atalanta play a lot this season. But I feel like I was reading some of the statistics that were out, and Zapata looks really dangerous. He's got 4 goals, 4 assists, and us having not really a shaky defense and coming up conceding 4 games in the last game. I think it's going to be tough. I feel like we're going to concede first. I don't see us scoring the first goal. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where we concede first, but then we see a reaction, and then we come back into the game and we build back into the game. I think it's going to be one of those. One thing we have to be really, really, really careful about is earlier this month, Atalanta were playing AC Milan, and they were 3-0 down. But they scored two late goals, 2 goals, one in the 86th minute and the next one in the injury time. I didn't see that game, but I was just reading the stats about it. So if something of that sort, we have to be prepared for that too. We have to be completely concentrated on the performance, completely concentrated every single minute of the game. If we make rookie mistakes like we did against Leicester, then we're gonna get punished. I think we can beat them, but I think it's gonna be them scoring first, and then it's gonna be.
Yeah, I watched that game, and I can tell you that last 5-10 minutes they were. I know which side I wanted to win, quote unquote bias, because I do have quarter Italians, there's quote unquote bias in there, but the way they did play in that second half, they were easy to get up because it was similar to United against Leicester. It was lack of awareness, positioning. It was all over the place. They weren't organised, and Milan just picked them apart. But in the second half, as they eventually grew into the game, they just knew like their way was going to work, and that's why they got the 2 quick goals. I'm going to come on to Mark's thoughts on Atalanta in a moment, but a comment from Keane. Funnily enough, as much as I didn't rate him as a player, I do agree with him. I do agree with you on that one. This game would be actually made for Dan James if we had him because of how high Atalanta press high up the field. They do push really high. They go for it, and it is very effective. Connor, before I ask Mark's opinion, Connor's asking, Keane's asking you, Connor, are you going to the game tomorrow?
Unfortunately not. No, I'm not going to be tomorrow or Sunday, unfortunately. I probably could have got ticket. I just can't.
You know what pains me? You know what pains me about tomorrow night? You know what pains me about tomorrow night? Keane's got a spare ticket to go to the game, right? And I couldn't get it off work. That would have been my first United game at Old Trafford. If I had if I could get it off, I would have been there. No, nothing else I can say about that really. But to be fair, I would never get back in time for work, so I can't really do anything about that. So, but Marco, going into the game tomorrow, what is your overall thoughts? Looking at the way Atalanta play, the way in our contrasting style, we're going to have to manage this game effectively more than well over the 90 minutes. We're going to have to deal with injury times as well. It's going to be a very important game tomorrow. What's your overall thought process going into tomorrow, and what do you see as United's best chance of winning this game?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with Keane, actually. This game would have been made for Dan James, and is something that he presses from the front really well. I totally understand and agree with what he said. Right, so they like to play a 3-4-1-2, which means that they will play attacking football and they're not going to be too defensive. So I don't think, in answer to you, Connor, they will play a low block. They're a very attacking team. They scored 16 goals this season and they will go at us. But with that in mind, that could bode well. I think that the way that Ole is obviously lost the game against Leicester at the weekend, he will go in very pragmatic and try to be difficult to score against. So I think he will probably see counter-attacking football, which obviously I spoke about this with a couple of the lads the other night, isn't necessarily a game where Ronaldo should start. But actually I think Solskjaer will play him due to it being Ronaldo, due to being the criticism, and isn't going to be ruthless enough. And I think you will see him. But ideally, I would have played Cavani, playing from the front, high press, and Rashford if he's available, and a couple of others. So, but you probably will see Ronaldo start. Well, obviously with 3 at the back, they're missing 2 of the main centre backs, as you mentioned, 2 of their midfielders as well. So that is obviously a positive for us. However, they've also got 4 or 5 in the midfield, and we struggle with our midfield, and our game is always won based upon who's in the midfield, and consequently that midfield is going to be very flooded. So it's really dependent on who he starts with. Now, I said this on a show last night, and Stu, one of my other mates, said it as well. I think Fred will be the one to go to. I think that maybe you didn't see him at the weekend against Leicester because we need that tenacity and we need that hard work. Yes, he has his mistakes. Yes, he has his defensive issues. But I think that you will probably see Fred. And to be honest with you, from a United perspective, and I've been banging on about this for months, as I'm sure most of you have had this conversation too, Donny van der Beek would be perfect for that game tomorrow. And if he was to sit in front of Fred with Bruno ahead of him, I think that midfield would work very, very well.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it as well on the back of that because their midfield is purely Dutch based. Like they do have Koop Minor in there, and they have got De Roon, so it is pure Dutch in that sense. Keane saying El Matador could be the first names on the team sheet, but he's going for his song because he absolutely loves Cavani's songs. Let's see. Donny is a swear word to a starting 11. Okay. It's going to be with Sam. Can you guys still hear me, though? You guys can still hear me, okay? That's fine, just because you've all went absolutely silent. The lot is. It's beautiful. I call this a real dictatorship. So proud. But I look at the back of that. It is going to be a sense of attack meets open defence tomorrow, but a team that loves to attack as well. And Mark's already mentioned 16 goals, but they scored 98 in the league last year as well. They are very attack-minded.
And came third as well.
And came third in the league as well, behind the Milan clubs and ahead of Napoli and Juventus, which is hilarious. I look at tomorrow and I don't know if we should match them system for system, but I do think playing the typical front four that he does, which is like a number 10, the two wide players in the centre forward, I think tomorrow, in all respect, he has to abandon it. I think tomorrow, in respect, I think he should play with a front two. I don't know what system he's going to do. I think maybe he should go a similar system to Atalanta, maybe not. It's going to be a tricky decision. But I don't think tomorrow you play Atalanta with a 4-2-3-1. I think you have to make some form of tweak about it. Even if he went diamond, even if he went with a diamond system tomorrow and he drops his wingers and he plays one of them as a centre forward instead, that's an option. But he's going to have to look at it tomorrow and think, is it my system that's going to get the best out of it? Because I think it's going to be the overall most difficult conversation. And as we are coming towards the end of the show, which has been thoroughly amazing with these chaps, I'm going to go through each single one of these because Keane's going to love this bit because he is completely obsessed with this part of the show because it gets him all giddy. I'm going to get your lineups, boys, and your score predictions. So we're going to go top to bottom. We're going to start with Connor and go to Z. Connor, what is your prediction for tomorrow for the lineup? What is your score prediction? And do you have any goal scorers in there or any controversial moments, like, say, for example, a player getting a sending off? What's your predictions for tomorrow?
Well, in my starting 11, I've got Eric Bailly, so he's a walking red card, isn't he? So probably him getting sent off, if you want to controversial him in a moment. But it's really tough because I was thinking of matching him and going back three, but with the way that Maguire played at the weekend, I wouldn't even put him in the starting 11. So you're probably looking De Gea, Wan-Bissaka.
Have a good one, mate.
Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Bailly, Lindelof. I think he'll probably go back to McTominay and Fred, if I'm being totally honest. I don't want him to, but I think that's what he will do. I think it will be Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, Ronaldo down the middle, and Bruno behind. I don't want that. Like I said, I'd rather Cavani instead of Ronaldo. I'd probably go with Van der Beek, actually, although I don't rate him as highly as other people do. I'd actually go with him over McTominay because I do agree with Mark. I think he's probably suited for this kind of game. And if he's not going to play in this kind of game, where is he going to play with the fixtures we've got coming up? So, yeah, I'd play. That would be my 11. Like I said, I'd obviously give him my thing there. I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 2-1, to be honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if we left it late. I think we'll probably go a goal up, 1-1, and then obviously get the winner. It's got to be Ronaldo on the score sheet because he just always scores in Champions League, doesn't he? So Ronaldo, and I'm holding that hope. I think Sancho might get his first goal tomorrow night, So I'll leave you with that positive.
You took the words from me, you bastard.
Excellent. Struan. You've been an absolute pleasure this evening. What is your prediction for tomorrow for lineup and goals, please?
I think it's a really tough one, to be honest. I think just talking through the show tonight, I've been thinking about how we're going to line up tomorrow, and I keep changing my mind because I think Bailly should come into the lineup for this one. I'm still not actually convinced if Harry Maguire is fit. I think Lindelof and Bailly will be the centre backs. De Gea has to stay in goal for me. I think he's got to be nailed on at this point. I'm interested to see what happens with fullbacks because I could easily see Alex Telles coming into this one. I think Luke Shaw's been okay this season, but I thought Telles was okay against Villarreal and he never really got another game from that. I don't know if Oles saving him for the Champions Leagues, and if it's Hateboer's out for Atalanta, it's maybe a weakness down the Atalanta right-hand side that Telles is possibly suited to go at, so I could see him coming in. I think Wan-Bissaka will stay at right back. I don't think Dallo comes in. I think McTominay and Fred come into it. I think we've missed them. I think, it's quite funny. A lot of people were saying that, one of the reasons that like we lost at the weekend was because of Fred, which is almost ironic given how often he's been blamed for individual results. But I think this is a game where he has to come in. And I think it's just going to be the team that we see quite a lot. I think Bruno will be the number 10, Ronaldo up front. I'm quite excited in a way to see Sancho and Rashford playing on the wings just to see how that works. I don't know if this is necessarily the game for them. I'd love to see Cavani. I'd love to see us maybe do a diamond like we did last season against Leipzig, Cavani and Ronaldo up top. I don't know if we're ever going to see that combination. This is potentially the time to try it. But then I don't know what you do with Rashford and Sancho in that case. But I think it will just be our usual attack, to be honest, with Sancho hopefully playing out over onto the right-hand side this time. And for scoreline, I think it'll be I want to be optimistic and say a 3-2, but I think it's going to be a really stressful one where perhaps we go behind, then we come back to make it 2-2. We go ahead 2-1, and then they make it 2-2, and then we have to score in the last minute again, or somewhere in the last 10 minutes, probably Ronaldo.
Ooh, a late 3-2-1, very interesting. Before I come to Mark, there is 7 people watching, and just again, please hit that share button, the like button, and subscribe button as well. Get the bell on notifications. Drop your lineup and predictions in, and no, it is not time for Phil Jones in the 6th. Go to hell.
Go on, Reece. Go on, say it.
I know.
This is honestly, God, I blame one person for this, and I don't blame Keane. He's on a different channel. Kartik, this is your fault.
I keep blaming you off about this as well.
Why, Kartik, would you do this? But that's the madness. But yeah, please, guys, reiterate, just hit that like button, share, subscribe, follow us on Twitter as well. Give these guys a follow. I'll be getting them to shout their socials out in a minute, and drop your lineup and predictions as well. Marco, once again, always a pleasure talking to you. What is your lineup and predictions for tomorrow?
Thank you, mate. I don't think I've helped with the Phil Jones in the 6. I think I've
you've pissed me off just as much.
A bit too often. But anyway, mine's not too dissimilar actually. But I've gone with David De Gea, buying Lindelof. I think after the weekend with Maguire, I can't see him starting at all. I totally agree with Stu, and actually Tellez on the left-hand side. I think you will see him. I said this last night as well. With Aaron Wan-Bissaka not having a 3-game match ban, he'll definitely be back in. Now, I think he probably will go with Fred and McTominay. But what I would like to see is Fred and Donny. And I mentioned this earlier. I really feel that Donny would be perfect for this game. I think Fred's got enough bullishness about him, tenacity about him to be able to control that midfield enough. Okay, and then Bruno in front of him. Actually, again, if it wasn't Ollie, he will start Ronaldo as his number 9, but I would have Cavani up top, and then I would have Rashford on the left and Sancho on the right, but he probably will start Ronaldo. For me, I was going to go 3-2 as well, but I would change that to 3-1. As Connor mentioned, I think Sancho is going to be his time to shine tomorrow, and I think he'll be one of our best players.
Very, very nice. Very nice. So we've got 3-1, got 3-2s, 2-1s. It's all over the show. Z, obviously, it's your first time on the Weekly Armchair tonight. I hope you have enjoyed our company. I hope you've enjoyed being on the channel. We would hope to get you on again. You've been an absolute pleasure, just like the rest of you. So thank you for coming on. What is your lineup and prediction for tomorrow? And you're also on mute.
My bad. I'm sorry. My cat's pooping, so I didn't want you all to hear.
No, it's perfectly all right. It's perfectly all right.
So thank you for having me. I'll start up with De Gea. I think he starts. Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right. I feel like Lindelof and Maguire are going to be the ones starting. I feel like it's important for Maguire to get the confidence back before the Liverpool game, because I don't see Bailly and Lindelof starting against Liverpool. So I think it's important, and Maguire's played for us like for 3 years. He can handle that pressure of giving up a disaster and coming back from it. On the left again, Shaw. I feel like we're gonna go back to our basics, as Rashford was also mentioning during the conference. I think we're gonna go back to Fred and McTominay. Sancho on the right, Rashford on the left, Bruno in the middle, Ronaldo up front. I think Van de Beek is gonna make an impact tomorrow. I feel like 5 substitutions gonna make. Probably he'll be the 4th one coming on, but I think he has.
Think he'll score?
I don't think so. He'll score. He might assist if we end up winning 4-2, which is my prediction. I feel like we're gonna go up for 4-2. We're gonna concede first, but we're gonna come back. It's either gonna be that, or we're gonna start up scoring 2 or 3 goals in the first 20 minutes and end up winning the game 5-0, 5-1. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground in this game. I think it's going to be an intense game, end to end. But yeah, I feel like Sancho is going to shine. It's one of those nights.
Funnily enough, you've actually taken the scoreline right out of my head. I've actually also gone for a 4-2. 4-2 United win. My prediction for tomorrow, may as well. I'm the host. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Keane's not going to tell me no. My prediction is De Gea and goal. I'm going Wan-Bissaka and Alex Telles as the fullbacks. I think it's the best decision to get Telles in there. It makes more sense. Luke Shaw, I love the guy to death. I think he's a brilliant player. But just like any other team, if a player's not performing well, you need to be reminded that you are not undroppable. And he has not been particularly great since he's came back from the Euros. He needs to be reminded, if you're not up to scratch, then your ass should be on the bench. So, in all fairness, I think tomorrow, give Telles even like 60 minutes, 60, 65 minutes for Telles, and then Luke Shaw 20, 30, 25 minutes. I think that's fair. I do agree in terms of the centre-back positions. I actually think as much as I don't want Maguire to start because he's not fit and it could be a detrimental impact, I do also agree with Z. I think Maguire is going to start tomorrow purely because he's handled the pressure before. He's a club captain. I hate quoting the term favouritism, but there are certain players that it doesn't matter what their level of fitness is, they are going to be in the team guaranteed. He's one of them. I think he will play. I don't think, funnily enough, I do not think mine and Lindelof's favourite, Rachel's favourite, Lindelof, is going to start. I think Lindelof's actually going to be on the bench. I actually think it's going to be Eric Bailly and Harry Maguire at centre-back tomorrow. Midfield, bullish, Fred and Van de Beek. Flat out, I'm going for it. I think, as much as I think the McFred partnership, he's going to revert to favouritism because it's his reliable partnership. It's the one that gets the best, seems to be the best for when he needs to in big games. He goes to it. I think in this circumstance, you don't need both. You can use one or the other in certain situations. I would play Fred for his tenacity, his quick ball recovery, which is what he's good at, and then let Van de Beek get the ball forward. He's got the movement in there. He does have the intelligence. It may not be consistent for United, but he's never really had the opportunity. This is a good chance because up against players he's familiar with from similar backgrounds, like the Dutch background. It makes a lot of sense. I think you're better going with him. In terms of further forward, in front four, I've got Sancho on the right. I also think he's going to score tomorrow. I also think he's going to get a double assist. There's one for you. I think Rashford's on the left-hand side. I think Rashford's going to get a hat-trick. I've got Bruno in the 10. I've got Ronaldo up top. But I also agree I would rather play Cavani or even Greenwood. And I'm also going Sancho to score and I'm going Rashford to get a hat-trick tomorrow. No goals from the front man. It's wingers tomorrow. And
I wonder what the odds on that will be. Christ almighty.
Fuck knows, but I am walking chaos. So let's see. Shane's left this evening. I hope have a good night, mate. And Keane's also went off as well. He's saying 2-1 United win. Thank you for that. Lads, as we come towards the end of the show, there is 8 people watching. I hope you guys have all enjoyed the show. These guys are all available on socials. They have their own channels. I'm going to get them now to just shout out where you can find them, give them a follow or subscribe to their content. So Connor, I'm going to start with you. Once again, thank you for coming on, mate. You're an absolute pleasure. It's the first time I've spoken to you since I pulled out bonbons on the transfer show, which is an iconic moment on the Weekly Armchair. If you haven't seen it, honestly, I'll send you the clip. It's so funny. It was literally just a transfer show. It was myself, Phil Brown, and their Arsenal fan, William. He spoke about why he didn't want Conte at Arsenal. All you see is me pulling out a bag of Vimto bonbons, eating them right in front of them. It was genius. Connor, thank you for coming on, mate. You're an absolute diamond. Where can we find you on the socials?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me back on the channel. I've really enjoyed tonight's show. So my app's there, but I think more importantly, there's the All for United men's account as well. But I will quickly shout out All for United WFC, which is the women's side of our channel. They, at the weekend, are sponsoring a player, helping her progress through her career. So we're paying for like travel and things like that and helping her progression in the game. She plays for FC United of Manchester, so local to the Manchester area. So what we're doing as a collective trying to help local teams, and obviously we support Man United women as well, who are doing better than the men, so to speak, at the moment. So I'll just shout out those as well. So All for United, obviously the men's account, and then All for United WFC is the women's side as well.
Thank you very much for that, and also I think that's a great cause. I didn't realise you were doing that, so that's great cause to you, and it means I'll do whatever I can to support you guys as well. That's a fantastic cause. Struan, not only are you involved with Man United content, you also produce for the Hibernian women's team. That's something you're also involved in, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Could you please shout out your socials?
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed the show tonight. I hope my debut wasn't too bad, to be honest. Wasn't quite
you're
Ronaldo's
fantastic.
at Newcastle. Second
you
debut.
were fantastic. You're an absolute joy to speak to and listen to, so yeah.
My Twitter @ is just Garvey2000, just the same spelling as on the screen there, and then just 2000 at the end of it.
Fantastic. And Mark, you bearded bastard, beautiful bearded bastard, joy as always. Thank you for coming on. Where can we find you on the socials?
I'll see. I'll give you that tenner later, Reece. Thanks, mate. Listen. Obviously, Connor's already mentioned All for United and the women's. I wasn't aware of that with the women's thing as well. So that really is great, and excellent stuff there. Yeah, but for me, it's just at Mark Biggs, and but we are starting a GoFundMe on All for United to change DJ Connor Roberts back to at Slabhead. If you're interested in that.
I thought that was going to be a GoFundMe to get you off match reviews, because every time Mark hosts a match review, we lose the game.
That's something that needs to happen, actually. Yeah, just a quick one, just so everyone's aware. I've done the last sort of 6 or 7, and obviously the majority of those we have been poor, and I think I need to resign on match reviews.
Maybe you should just do match previews. Probably better, probably wiser too. But also another thing as well, I don't think Connor and Mark mentioned, obviously you guys did, like the women's side, like Jonathan and Natalie did go to the FCAs, and obviously for them guys, like for your channel, obviously a big massive congratulations. So for all of you guys for all your hard work in that sense as well. So I thought I would drop that as well. Z, you have been absolutely brilliant this evening, and I absolutely love the wall behind you. It's unique, it's original, and it's totally United. Thank you for coming on this evening. It's a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope we have you on again. And no doubt Keane will definitely have you on again, because like always, you're welcome to the channel. Bring such exhilarating opinion. It's always original. It's no agenda driven. It's just pure Man United opinion. Where can we find you on the socials?
Thank you so much for having me. It was literally a pleasure talking with you all and like sharing all the opinions and thoughts. And this is how it should be. We should be having these civil debates rather than calling for someone to get sacked or like all the abuse that we see on social media.
Yeah.
You can follow me on this is Zishan _ on Twitter. That's where I'm found, and I'm a mental health counselor. So you'll be finding probably mental wellness quotes from me, and of course opinions about United.
And in circumstances at the moment, obviously mental health is a big factor and point. It's not easy conversation for everybody, but at least through Z, there is someone who can give you some form of support through like his quotes. I think quotes on comment are actually at times the best ways to help people. A conversation is great, listening as well, but sometimes even just a quote is very effective, and I think that's fantastic. So thank you. And just before I come up, we do have a final question, and I will let you guys run with it as well. Personally, I think it's the right decision, but do you think we will change formation tomorrow? As rumours I read, we were playing as a 3-5-2. Just a yes or no. I'm going to come through the whole of you guys, probably wrap up. Yes or no the whole way through. 3-5-2 tomorrow. Connor, start with you.
It could work, but no, he won't do it tomorrow.
Struan?
Nah, I don't think we'll see it tomorrow.
Marco?
Definitely not. And let me just say, 4-2-3-1 is the way forward. It is the way that teams are playing now. With the ball, it's 4-3-3. Without the ball, it's 4-2-3-1. That's not going to change. We just need to get that DM to make sure it works.
Absolutely. And Z?
Exactly agree with what Mark said. We're not going to be changing 3-5-2.
As much as I like a back three, I also say no. And on that one, thank you for the comment, though, Maisie, sorry, my apologies. I am actually in the mood to go and kill the daisies that are in my garden for that comment. That's embarrassing. That's a howler. Wow, I'm shocked. But on that note, on that bombshell, we are now going to end that one. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's 8 guys watching. You've been with us since well over an hour ago. We do appreciate it. This is the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. It is Devil's Advocate. Hit the bell for the notifications. We do have more content coming, the likes of London Lowdown. We do have our Twitch chat. Shut up, Maisie. The fact that I have a howler is embarrassing. Either way, I never get it wrong. I did this time. Yay, the fuck ups. Have a good night, folks, and here's to tomorrow when we beat Atlanta. Not Atlanta. We are not playing in the States. Good night.